Okay, so my name is Vajrashura. It's nice to see you all. I can switch back to gallery view, can't I? So I can see people. Yeah. So you're all very welcome. I'm on the team for this retreat, the winter retreat, with quite a sizable team actually. I think it's Pavra, Tulimitra, Maitrikaya, Nyanadara, Jyotika, Pranyamai, Varabandhu, Prasanna Deva, and Stephen Riley. And apologies if I've left anyone else out there who's giving a talk or doing an event. And Prasanna Deva and Stephen will be doing the technical hosting. So they'll either have their own name or I think Dublin Buddhist Centre or something like that. You'll see them as the host. You can always send them a message if you have any technical problems with Zoom or you need to ask them anything. So what we're going to do tonight is, excuse me, we're going to do an introduction to the theme for the week. And then we'll have some logistical details as well about how to be on retreat and so on. And we'll have small reporting in groups then. Representative, can I just get you to mute people if they're not, if just while I'm talking, just mute all. So we'll have some small reporting in groups then, and then we'll have a break and for 10 minutes, and then we'll do a dedication ceremony and meditation. Pavra will lead that. Normally I'd say he'll do that in the shrine room, but you know, we're on Zoom, so we'll do that towards the end. So to say a bit about the theme is the Samgrahavastus, the Magic of Sangha. So Samgrahavastus, it's quite a long word that took me a while to learn how to spell, but it's one of these long words which has a variety of meanings and pops up throughout the Buddhist tradition. It's mainly found in the Mahayana, but it has its origins in the Pali Canon, the very early schools of Buddhism, which I'll come back to in a moment. And it's primarily concerned, the Samgrahavastus, which we're subtitling the Magic of Sangha, they're primarily concerned about how to attract people to the Dharma. You could say how to attract ourselves to the Dharma and how we build community and transform the world. So one translation is that the Samgrahavastus are the means of unification. So they're the means to connect people with each other and to a living practice of Buddhism, a living practice of the Dharma, and especially the Dharma as embodied in the people around you and in our interactions with people. So how we practice and live and be in the world together in a very positive way. They're sometimes called the elements of conversion. Conversion is a word that people can, you know, it's a weird, it's slightly almost a negative word these days, but you could say it as a way of transforming or converting your deepest energies and elements of your being to the highest good in the universe and helping other people to do the same. So transformation, you could say, the elements of transformation, particularly in relation to the people, as I've said. And the Samgrahavastus, they're practices that we do ourselves that are supremely attractive to people. They attract people to practice the Dharma with us. You could even say they attract all the different parts of ourselves as well to practice the Dharma, but they really attract other people. And I think this is highlighted in one of the early Pali Canon texts. So the Pali Canon texts are the texts that are from the very early part of Buddhism. And there's the story of Hataka, and he is a follower of the Buddha, a lay follower actually. He's not a monk or a bhikkhu. And he returns to the Buddha with 500 followers, 500 companions. And the Buddha asks him, who are all practicing the Dharma, and the Buddha asks him, how have you won so many people to the Dharma, to the Buddha's teaching? And Hataka replied that he's done so through the practice of the Samgrahavastus. That's how he's built the Sangha of 500 really harmonious and deep practicing people. And the Buddha then spends a bit of time just really rejoicing in Hataka's good qualities. And in that text, the translation, which it's quite a nice one, it's called the Four Grounds for the Bonds of Fellowship. The Four Grounds for the Bonds of Fellowship. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but it does communicate something of what the Samgrahavastus are about. So so later in the Buddhist tradition, in the Mahayana, which developed later on, maybe 500 years or so, from 500 years or so roughly after the Buddha's time, they're brought out particularly in the Vimalakirti Nirdesha, but they come up a lot in early Buddhism apparently. And the Vimalakirti Nirdesha, some of you will have read Bante's book, The Inconceivable Emancipation, which is one of my favorite books by Bante, actually a favorite series of lectures by Bante. And there's a great lecture called On Being All Things to All Men. And I'll come back to why he called that lecture in a moment. But the Bodhisattva is the great hero of the Mahayana. And the Bodhisattva, which you probably know, is a being who is aimed at enlightenment, aimed at gaining enlightenment, not just for themselves, but for all beings. And they want to help all beings in the best way possible. And the best way we can help people is by helping them become more and more enlightened. So for countless aeons, the Bodhisattva practices the 6 perfections: generosity, ethics, patience, vigor, absorption, and wisdom. And as the Mahayana developed, it added to the list, as often happens in the Buddhist tradition as it develops. The lists get longer and more profuse. And it added another one, which was upaya kushala, which means skillful means or liberative technique. You could say the skill at bringing people to enlightenment, the skill at helping beings be free and supporting their freedom. And the Samgrahavastus are part of this upaya kusala, skillful means or liberative technique. Don't worry about all the detail if you don't remember, but I just want to evoke it. And the reason the Mahayana really placed an emphasis on this above and beyond the 6 perfections, which are more traditional, is that it was for a very specific reason. The Bodhisattva's aim, the being who is intent upon helping all beings, their aim is to build a Buddha land, a place, a pure land, you could say, where everything connects with the Dharma and everything reminds you of the Dharma, and you even hear the Dharma in the wind and the trees. So conditions are so perfect for practice that you can't but gain enlightenment there. So they're trying to create this world, whether it's somewhere else or whether it's in this world, it varies on the texts and the commentaries. So it's a world where you live by the truth. And but there's a couple of things about that. And the first thing is that you can't do that alone. No, even a great bodhisattva can't do that alone. So they practice the Samgrahavastus to positively recruit and encourage people to help them build a better world together where people can benefit from it. So that's the first thing. But also the second thing is that, we might be offered a Buddha land, a place where things are so perfect that you just spontaneously meditate. But actually, you might just prefer to watch more television and eat more Christmas pudding, actually, to be honest. You might not quite be ready to let go of that Netflix series that you're watching for the last 4 days, 8 hours a day, So the thing about the Samgrahavastus is that they're also designed to be supremely attractive. We're really attracted by them. We almost are drawn into the spiritual Sangha by them, by their beauty and by their attractiveness. And we let go of the more coarse and unrefined energies of our life. Because if we just try and force ourselves into a Buddha land, you'll probably find it too dull or too uninteresting, or you'll be too uncouth for it. And you want to go back to the pigsty again. So the Samgrahavastus, they create this lovely atmosphere and feeling and vibe where you're just drawn on in the spiritual life. They're a very special practice in that regard. So that's why Bhante, talked about the Bodhisattva as being all things to all men, or maybe all things to all people, because there's so many people coming to the Sangha who could come to the Sangha. You have to be able to meet all of them and draw them all on, and the way to do that is the Samgrahavastus. So we felt they were a great thing to focus on in this retreat, because I'm lucky. I've just come back from a 3-month retreat in Guhyaloka where I was leading the ordination retreat, and it was all very straightforward. It was all really good, and it was really, really nice practicing with people for that length of time and being with people. But that's very unusual at the moment with COVID. Most people are still isolated from each other in a certain degree of lockdown. So we felt that it was just really important to emphasize Sangha and emphasize Samgrahavastus. So the 4 Samgravastis are, I haven't mentioned them yet, I'm aware, but the 4 of them are, firstly, dana, or generosity. And I should say as well that with the Samgrahavastus, all 4 of them are ways in which connections are particularly formed in the Sangha. Yeah. So the first one being generosity. It's not just everyday generosity or even great generosity. It's the kind of generosity that actively brings people together, that gives us a sense of connection and common purpose. Yeah. The second one is priyavadita, which is kindly speech. And again, specifically the kindly speech, like rejoicing and praising and open and honest speech that creates community, that creates connections between us. There's artacharya is the third one. So artacharya means beneficial activity. So the bodhisattva acts to benefit beings. And in particular, in terms of building Sangha, the bodhisattva's beneficial activity is deeply inspiring. So the bodhisattva tries to inspire people to the Dharma. Now, how they do that, we'll hear in a few days' time when we have a talk on that. It's not necessarily that they go around helping old people cross the road or anything like that. They might not even feel like they're inspiring people, but they are. Yeah. And then the last one is samanartha, samanarthata. So that's exemplification. So we practice what we preach. We walk the talk. We live by the Dharma as well as talk about the Dharma. And we'll hear more about that again in the coming days. So what this means is that if we practice these 4 Samgrahavastus, generosity, kindly speech, beneficial activity, exemplification, we'll naturally connect with others and inspire their friendship, just as Hataka did in the Pali Canon with his 500 followers. And what's more, we'll ourselves be drawn on towards the goal, and we'll help others be drawn on as well. And again, that isn't a conscious thing that we do. We're not trying to draw each other on. It's just that when we practice the Samgrahavastus together, that's what happens. And that's been my experience again and again on retreat or in the center or wherever it is that we've been trying to practice them together. And it is people at the end of the day who inspire us and draw us on more than anything else, I believe. I can still remember my first meditation course back in 1999. And I can still remember my first Dharma discussion group and things like that. And it was very much the people, the welcome of the people and the friendliness of the people. And I still remember walking into the center one of the first times and being very warmly welcomed. And that's just repeated again and again down through the last 20 odd years. So it's the people that you tend to will draw you on more than anything else, I believe. And Sangha draws you on more than anything else. And in a way, if we just do the Samgrahavastus, we don't have to worry about anything else. In a way, there's enough in them to form a complete path to enlightenment, I believe. Okay, so we'll hear more about all these 4 Samgrahavastus over the coming days. Tomorrow we'll have a talk on generosity from Atulya Mitra. I can't quite remember the other days. I know that Maitreya and Nyanadhara are also giving talks, and I'm going to be giving the 4th talk on exemplification. So we'll hear more about each of those in the coming days, and we'll be evoking each one each day. And in the evenings, we're also going to hear some storytelling, you could say, evoking maybe stories from the Buddhist tradition or from people's experience by various speakers as well, evoking those 4 too. Okay, so that's probably enough on the theme for now. Just to give you an overview of the program. So obviously we're all online and the whole retreat will be online. But tomorrow morning and most mornings, not every morning, but most mornings, Maitreya will be leading the morning meditation. So that'll be roughly an hour and a half, an hour, 40 minutes, I think in total, with 2 or 3 sits with leg breaks, with leg stretches rather. Hopefully your legs won't be breaking. And then at 10:30 each morning, these are all Irish times, obviously, for people abroad. There'll be a Dharma talk on one of the Samgrahavastis. And as I said, tomorrow it'll be Atulya Mitra talking about generosity. And then after a short tea break, we'll...
Sorry, Vajrashura, it's 11.
Oh, it's 11. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I got the
11.
time wrong. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Nyanjar. That's great. 11 o'clock. My apologies. And then after that, there'll be breakout rooms for discussion. And that'll go up to about 1 o'clock. And then at 4 p.m., there'll be meditation. And there won't be much input then. It'll just be another hour and a half of meditation. At 7:30, we'll meet to have the storytelling, short talk, whatever it is, in the evenings. And tomorrow evening, it's It's Varabandhu talking about generosity. And then after that, we'll probably have a short break again. There'll be meditation and puja, and Yanadara is leading that tomorrow night. And on other days, it'll be somewhat similar. And on New Year's Eve, we're going to have a quieter day with less input, and we'll just have a more of a meditation focused day as well then, to see out the end of the year. And we will be having a ritual on New Year's Eve. I can't remember what day that is. That's Friday night, isn't it? We will be having a ritual until midnight that night as well. So get your sleep in advance. So yeah, and the full program is available on that page that you went to. There was a slight problem for some people with the link, but if you have the whole link, you just copy and paste it in, and it'll be the same Zoom link for all those events. And if you have any problems, just message whoever is the main host, Prasanna Deva or Stephen. Okay, I think I've covered everything on the program. Let me know, Nyanadara or anyone else there on the team, if I've forgotten anything. So a couple of things then about being on retreat. So we'd normally be together in person. We'd be up in Cavan now, or something like that. Although I don't think Cavan would be able to. How many are we up to? I don't think Cavan would be able to take 45 people. But anyways, so or I don't think Liz will be able to commute from Tasmania. So there are advantages to doing it this way. And from all the other places people are, like I can see it switch on the screen right now. But do try and make this week a proper retreat for yourself. You could be really mad and just turn off your phone for the week, for example. And just the only time you come online is for the Zoom calls. You could do something like that. Just tell people tonight you're going on retreat, or at least spend some of the days off your phone, and try not to be on your phone, except if you have to have your phone on, just try and only be on it for absolutely necessary stuff. And nothing on social media is necessary. And none of the news is probably necessary, for example, this week. You could totally avoid that. And also give yourself lots of space. Don't try and do too much. The program will feel quite full, actually, especially on Zoom. It is a little bit more demanding on Zoom than in person in a way to stay engaged. So do give yourself lots of space in between the events. You will be doing enough with all the events that we have put on each day. That will be enough to do. Obviously, you'll need to eat and all that kind of thing as well. And do please turn up a couple of minutes early for each event on Zoom. People tend to turn up just on the time or a minute late. It'd be great if you could be here a couple of minutes early. And feel free to chat or just turn off your camera if you prefer to wait, if you're feeling introverted. A couple other things. There will be breakout rooms. So if you can have your working camera and microphone, I think everyone knows that by this stage. And just one thing to say about Zoom as well, just resist the urge if you're on Zoom to be, split screening with the newspaper and reading it online as well while the talks are on or something like that. It's very easy to distract yourself when you're on a screen. I think we're almost habituated at this stage on a screen not to give one thing our full attention. I think that's something we really have to work against. So practice this week when you're on a screen, just giving it your full attention. And that really is a practice that will pay off as well, as much as doing the mindfulness of breathing or whatever other, or metta bhavana or any other practices you're doing. Do try and come to all the events if you can. And we will be putting up videos of the events, of all the talking events, but do try and come to them anyway, because it's better to be there live and so on. And then lastly, again, just try and make it as retreat-like as you can. I am down in my folks' house still from Christmas, and I'm traveling back up to the men's community where I live, and we're turning it into a retreat of sorts for the week. So maybe you can turn your house like we are into a retreat center of sorts, if that's possible, or at least a retreat room, or if that's not possible, a retreat corner of a room, and just try and make the week as retreat-like as you can. And if you are having any difficulties and you want to speak to one of the team, just drop us a line. You can reply to the email you got giving you the links to this retreat, or if you know our emails, you can just drop us that directly as well. Okay, so I think that's pretty much all I want to say. I don't want to go on too long tonight. So what we'll do now is we'll go into some breakout rooms. in a couple of minutes. Don't send us just yet, Prasanna Deva. And we'll go into these for about 15 minutes. Let me just, and in those groups, what we'll do is there'll probably be an order member in each group, hopefully, and they can take the lead with the timings and stuff. So what I'd like you to do in those groups is to just introduce yourself and say how long and in what ways you've been involved in Triratna, in the Dublin Buddhist Centre or in our wider Buddhist community. If you're from, what brought you to the retreat, maybe say where you are in the world, and what ideally you'd like to get from the retreat. So it's only 2 minutes each, it's very short. So something of that flavor. You're really just giving people a flavor of what brings you to the retreat tonight. Slightly homeopathic flavor, small flavor for 2 minutes, but it's enough to give a feeling for why you're here. And as I always think, if you're a very short style, if you talk with very few words, say a bit longer. And if you're a long style where you tend to talk quite a lot, go shorter. That's my advice for a 2-minute reporting in. So let me just check. Prasanna Dave, can I just check if everything's good to go?
Yes, everything's good to go.
Okay, so we'll go into this for 15 minutes and then we'll come back here. We'll take a short break and then we'll go for some meditation and dedication ceremony. So you can push the button, Prasanna Deva, whenever you want.